What I'm about to tell you now is a little bit of the story of how I got here today, but basically a bit of a bridge. June 29th, 2003, a day that would forever change not just me, but also my family. That was the day when I was officially diagnosed with autism. Now imagine being told that your son may not even talk right, walk right, or even be wheelchair bound for life. One doctor even gave me 3 months to live. It's a lot to handle on just a little toddler like myself. My parents, it's what I would call Judgment Day. Were they going to take their advice or roll the dice? If you haven't guessed already, they took a gamble and things might have worked out. Might have. Before that moment, none of my parents even knew what autism or even Asperger's syndrome even was. For my parents, there's a lot of living and learning, especially in the early years. But talking about it now, all these years later in front of you guys, I've taught them just as much as they've taught me. Now, nothing came easy. Growing up with Asperger's made me feel more comfortable doing things, made me more comfortable doing things alone. I spend a lot of time outdoors, hiking, bird watching, fishing, getting a breath of fresh air. I dare say to this day, I still socialize better with animals instead of actual people. I gotta admit, it was tough being called a bird nerd and that my interests were immature or cringe for people my age growing up. Then a place called Camp Aquila came along in my life. It was a big transition. Being a month away from home was not an easy thing to do for any of us. That camp did a lot to get me where I am today. I had my first ever real friend core group there. Matthew, Ezra, and I created something that we all called the Dynasty. 5 years of being some of the best bros to ever walk the face of the planet. Unfortunately, that's when depression happened and it all blew up, that dynasty. But what that taught me was how to deal with people moving on from things, a skill that I very much underappreciate. After Aquila is when that depression came back to me. All the pressure I faced from people who I thought were my friends, who I thought were trusted adults, who I thought would try to be there for me, but weren't. It all came to a head just before the pandemic. I almost wouldn't be able to talk to you all here today, but I never gave up, and I was determined to fight back. During the pandemic, I had time to reflect on myself. I was fortunate enough to be in a new country in Costa Rica for some time. And while I was there, I found my purpose in life, to regather myself, to make myself stronger as a human. And there is when I knew my certainty that I want to be a wildlife biologist and conservationist. And it made me realize how great everything was. Then this is where CIP comes along. And oh boy, that was a lot to deal with, especially my first year. Depression drama came back in my life, but this time I knew it was coming and I knew how to handle myself. I still managed to make friends my first year. The amount of drama definitely took its toll on all of us. None of my real friend core was coming back this year. And I was on the fence of even being here again to talk to you guys. And then something hit me. I reflected on my memories of my first year and then just thought to me, I would have never thought that I would be lead the whole program on a Housatonic River cleanup in only my third week at CIP. Shocking, right? For someone who's very quiet, antisocial, nerdy glasses kid like myself. Shocking. But then it realized I've made major growth that year. Living with 4 of the roommates and holding your own is something that's not to be taken lightly. I had reasons to move on, but all that while, those thoughts just kept coming back and realizing a bigger picture, not just in CIP, but this whole community as a whole. And it also really affected when I joined the summer musical, and it opened my eyes to see what else CIP really had to offer. The other people there, the staff, the community. The man of the river, as a lot of locals would call me. I knew that I just couldn't just be a one-year wonder with all this. There had to be a better ending to me. And I knew I made my impact here. I knew that I was taking the risk coming back, having to restart new friendships and a new roommate. but I did not let that fear control me. This year, I had front courts at CIP, but none of them, even the dynasty, compared to what I developed this very year. My second year, what even shocked me more was how quickly it happened. What I developed this year alone is something beyond legendary for me. It even puts that dynasty year to shame. It was then that I realized that I had the ability to make friends and to do it right with confidence. Even admitting that my own diagnosis brought me closer to people than I would have ever thought. Who knew that explaining to a 10-year-old kid about autism would have probably changed how they look at the spectrum? It shocked me. It showed me what I'm really capable of. CIP gave me confidence. CIP got me out of my comfort zone. CIP made an impact on me that no other program has ever come close to doing. It made me me again. I've not only made lifelong friends here, I have the confidence to keep them for life. Folks like Owen, Corinne, and Roy in particular have taught me a lot in the little time that I got to know them. And I sure bet that I've taught them a lot as well. In fact, I wouldn't even be up here talking to you if it wasn't for them. As I look back on everything that I've accomplished, being down at a young age, being an underdog, I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. As I celebrate my 22nd birthday with you all tonight, to my parents, to my brother Connor, my sister Claire, to the salty crew of Roy, Corinne, and Owen, and CIP as a whole, I'd like to say thank you with all my heart. And to anyone else out there that's being down and being underappreciated, just remember one thing. Underdogs never die. Signing off. This is Justin Ryan.